So today, while I'm looking at the Kobra 2 Plus, I'll be using the Chiron as a bit of a benchmark, and later on in the video when I do a bit of comparison of some of the prints I've been able to achieve with the Kobra, I'll use some of the prints from my Chiron so we can sort of see the difference you can expect between these two generations of printers. So to begin with, I'm going to look at a few comparisons between the specs, and then we're going to get into the unboxing, what was in the box and the setup of the machine, and then we'll be looking at the first impressions as I did the standard prints that came with the printer, and that's without even throwing them into the slicer. And then I'll look at some of the finished jobs, that some of the finished prints I've achieved with it. We'll compare it to some of the older ones off the Chiron. Then I'll introduce you to some of the prints I was able to achieve with the Kobra that I couldn't have even dreamed of doing with the Chiron. And as a special treat, if you jump to the last 16 minutes of the video, that'll be a start to finish Benchy, so you can actually see the Kobra in action from start to finish. It still doesn't quite do it justice as seeing it in person and not even being able to follow the print head and exactly what it's printing. So let's go over a few things that the Kobra 2 Plus has on my Chiron. With the extruder, we can see a lot gruntier fan. This helps cool down the extrusion. The auto leveling on the Kobra 2 was amazing. One go, leveled perfectly. The speed is an obvious difference. 300 to 500 millimeters per second is just insane. The build volume's a little bit less, but definitely all I need at this point. And here's a quick visual representation in the difference in speeds between the two units. As far as unboxing, came packaged perfectly, nothing was damaged, as you'd expect nowadays, paying this much for a printer, and had no problems with any of the parts inside the box. And of course, it comes with everything you need, with the hot end in the unit itself. A little bit of PLA to practice with, all the nuts, bolts and USB, and of course the PLA roll holder, as well as the supports, and the most important part, the instructions. Now I've got a quick time lapse of the assembly. Everything went together fine, no real issues. Let's have a look, see how it went. So I'm pretty excited here to show you the very first print on my Kobra 2 Plus. This is preloaded on the unit itself and is the Shark beer bottle opener. Pretty standard 3D printed knick-knack. You notice the first line it does here is to clear the nozzle. Then the first part of this video is at its base layer speed, so we're looking at about 60 millimeters per second. Here is where we finish the very first layer. You'll see the fan kicking as it changes up a gear and starts printing at 300 to 400 sort of millimeters per second. Then we have the very end of the print. You'll notice the quality here is fine. Again, this is no tweaking, this is straight out of the printer. Completed in 11 minutes. And I'll give you a quick view of the first two benches I did with the printer as well. So some of the types of prints I can do a direct comparison between is obviously the Benchies, very standard for comparing printers. Some of the bust type prints, not technical, detailed on the outside. We can look at the surface finish. Chiron wasn't actually too bad with those. Then some of the bigger prints, such as these dice towers, which, you know, are a big piece to print. We can look at the comparison there with the quality, and of course the big deciding factor is time, how long some of these prints took. The Kobra 2 Plus did this in 19 hours. My Chiron, this was 96 hours, and probably still less plastic in this. So the one thing to bear in mind with the comparison between these models is the Chiron, these prints I've achieved after quite a bit of tweaking, fine-tuning, head-banging, frustration to get it to where it was printing all right. And all the models that I've done with the Kobra 2 Plus are just using the standard profile. So here we have two of the benches off the Chiron. This one, you can see this is what I was sort of used to getting with it before I upgraded the fan duct. That did make quite a drastic improvement to the stringing. But as you can see, still not great. And these were straight off the printer for the Kobra 2. Better than anything I'd had off the Chiron at all. That was 34 minutes and this was 16 minutes. And included at the very end of the video is this being printed start to finish, 16 minutes. You can see just how well it did. So here, two models. This is off the Chiron. This one's off the Kobra 2. Both pretty good. This is fine. You can still see some very visible lines in there. I'm pretty happy here with the details on the bust. Pretty fine. You've got to look pretty close to see the layer lines. Nothing's out of place. Pretty happy with this result all in all. This is the dice tower that took 96 minutes on the Chiron to do. The quality was good enough for the table.
bit of paint on it looked alright, but definitely some still visible lines. Here we have the dice tower off the Kobra 2 Plus. Layer lines a lot harder to see. Insanely impressed with the detail for an FDM print. The paint brings up the layer lines a bit, but all in all, stoked with this result.
If you're wondering, this line here was a join line where I had a failed print. That was power cut.
You'll also notice on the skull quite a few artifacts and some very nasty looking dags from the overhangs, and of course some very visible layer lines.
Some of the things I was able to do with the Kobra 2 that I wasn't able to with the Chiron is some of these more technical prints. The one thing I found with the Chiron, very hard on some of the technical prints. The accuracy down low wasn't very good. Anything with moving parts tended to weld together rather than print them movable. So this is one thing the Kobra 2 has opened up to me. So we'll take a bit of a look at some of these that I have been able to achieve. And then these printed without brims, of course, just lifted straight off. Everything works as it should. Tough enough joints to hold everything together. Tiny bit of stringing with these prints. It's something I'll have to fine tune, but apart from that, the detail is great. So these are two technical prints I could not have achieved with the Chiron. So suspended pieces.
These prints of course require quite a bit of attention to the bridging. I had to slow the unit down to about 60 millimeters per second to get the bridging right, and you've got to make sure the fan is cooling everything efficiently or they'll droop. The suspended alien print, of course, again, a lot of care on getting the bridging right, or you won't be able to see the model and you'll have loose strands in there. But pretty happy with how it all came out. The Kobra did a great job here.
Again, bridging was pretty good.
Here with this technical print you can see how well the Kobra 2 is doing with the internal mechanics of the print itself. Once this was printed, everything worked fine. The Chiron would never have dreamed of doing this print in the current state I have it. So if you found any of this information useful, drop us a like, maybe think about subscribing to the channel. Stay tuned for more 3D printing, painting, and maybe some other miscellaneous videos coming out in the future. And with that, I'm going to leave you with my 16-minute, 17-minute Benchy start to finish. Hope you enjoy.